Man, the season is back, and I think Allegri terrorist football at its peak. But I'm going to give Allegri flowers for this game because I think he got this game spot on 100%. I don't think there was any real negatives in this game apart from some things that we'll get into later. But other than that, preparing this team, this specific Milan team, to play a Bologna side that just a couple months ago in the Coppa Italia final, we absolutely got battered. And I think one thing that I think raised a lot of eyebrows and a lot of concerns was this lineup. Pulisic on the bench, Loftus Cheek up top at striker and next to Santi Jimenez, which Santi Jimenez we'll get to later. Don't get me wrong. And then obviously I think one of the main kind of headlines in this one was Adrian Rabiot gets his start. And this was your standard 3-5-2, right? It was Loftus Cheek and Santi Jimenez up top. And it definitely raised a lot of concerns because people were saying, why is Pulisic on the bench, especially when Leao is out? But I think when you kind of look at it in the grand scheme of things, I think Allegri kind of did this on purpose to really overload the midfield with midfielders. At one point, we were playing with 6 midfielders, right? Because Loftus Cheek, he wasn't playing as a second striker. He was definitely playing as kind of like an advanced midfielder, definitely, doing what he does best, right? Carrying the ball, from box to box and that sort of thing. But I think once Milan and Allegri really started to kind of read the game a little bit more, I think definitely in that second half, once we started really playing the way that we did, right? Our identity and everything like that. And we got a lot more comfortable on the ball. I think Allegri took a lot more risks. And this was a difficult first half to watch because it was one of those where you were wondering how is Milan going to get into the final third with the lack of forwards on the pitch. But I think one of the things that was not really of a concern to me when you have someone like this, Adrian Rabiot, man. I think this was one of the players that I think a lot of fans on Milan Twitter were, raving on about. This was someone that I was saying in, I believe, the last episode that he was going to be one of our most important players in this team. And I mean, look, this performance versus Bologna, top player, top game, definitely going to have a massive impact in our team going forward with the quality on the ball that he has, right? His link up play was sensational. Him and Modric looked like they were playing together for ages. And right, just his quality on the ball, his offensive contributions as well. He was absolutely sensational, right? Like I said, linking up play, being a really big threat going forward, right? Taking the ball and really just carrying it right from box to box. There was a couple moments that Rabiot was doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if he grabs his first goal doing exactly like that, right? And also, he's super familiar with Allegri's system. This was somebody that Allegri wanted at the top of his list. And I mean, look, what did we pay? 9 million for Rabiot? Absolute steal of a player. And I mean, look, it looks like he hasn't missed a step. He was the player that has been brought in most recently, right? You talk about Nkunku and, Rabiot coming in. He was the player that has came in last, and it looks like he hasn't missed a step. Adrian Rabiot, it goes to show that he's going to be one of our most influential players in this midfield going forward. But one player who was an influential player, and I think this is going to be something, or rather someone that is going to be on the transfer list pretty soon, Mike Maignan. This injury, it's definitely kind of made me kind of look at Mike Maignan and be like, your time is up, my friend. Do we extend his contract? I'm saying no. I think you let him go. I think it's just one of those things where it's like we can't have this liability on our team just constantly getting injured, and especially a really important position, right? Your goalkeeper is, one of your most important positions on the pitch. And if this is one of those things where, number one, goalkeepers are not supposed to be injured as much as Mike Maignan has, number one, but number two, it's like, I think it's one of those where it's like we keep stalling this contract negotiation and everything like that. And it's been such a headline in the news. Is he going to extend? Is he not? And I feel like it's just one of those things where I think the management and Tade and everybody was looking at Mike Maignan walk out of the stadium in crutches and be like, we need to find a replacement. But our replacement is on the bench. Torriani, your time is now, my friend. I think this is just one of the most obvious things to do if you're a Milan coach, right? If you're Allegri, if you're the management, right? You got to take a gamble on Torriani. And I know this is one of those where Obviously, the management is very apprehensive about playing, the youth guys. I mean, we loaned out Camarda, we sold Simic, and we sold Liberali, and we let go of all these guys. But I think this is one of the things that is just the light is just beaming on Torriani right now to really get his shot. And right as Tereciano is playing, these next couple of games, right? Because Magnon, he's going to be out for a while. I'm gonna just predict like a 2-month injury, to be completely honest. But I feel like when you have Tereciano kind of playing games in and week out now, I think Torriani, he's got to play versus Lecce. I think you throw him in versus Lecce, see where his level's at, and at that point, I think you can make a really good generalization of where his game is at. I think Torriani has to be the next number one goalkeeper for AC Milan if he plays at a top level in these next couple games that we give him a shot. And I think Coppa Italia will be that shot for Torriani. And I think, honestly, Allegri is going to be talking to him in his ear, hey, your time is now. This is your moment, right? You look at, the case study number one, Gianluigi Donnarumma. He was one of those where he got literally this chance, right, to play for Milan and to really make an impact. And I mean, look what he's doing now, bigger and better things, winning Champions Leagues. Now he's playing for Manchester City. But Torriani, I think he really has to look at this opportunity as something to really capitalize on and I'm hoping if Allegri gives him that shot. But going forward into that game, right? Unfortunate that Mike Magnon is hurt, right? Hopefully, he, speedy recovery, everything like that. But second half, we looked a lot more impactful, creating chances, more threatening opportunities. And I'll say this, once this player came on, Samuele Ricci, this just boggles my mind how this player has been on the bench for the last 3 match days, and just the presence that he brought in, right? You see the quality that he brings over Fofana, right? Fofana did absolutely nothing, and once Ricci came in, the first 5 minutes, he did more than Fofana did in the whole time that he was there. And of course, once Pulisic came in, this was the best team that we had out on the pitch, right? You had Santi Jimenez, Pulisic up top, then you had a midfield trio, right? But if you count that 5, you had Rabiot, Modric, Ricci, Salamakers on the right, and Estupinian on the left. And I will say this, I want to give my flowers to Estupinian. I think he had a very good game. I think a lot of people have been critical of Estupinian, so I'm going to give Estupinian my flowers today because he was somebody that I did not want to give up on. I know his quality. I knew what he did in Brighton, and I definitely do think that he will have that similar impact at AC Milan. So big up Estupinian. I thought you had a decent game. Of course, Salamakers. I mean, look, he gets the assist for the Luka Modric winning goal. And I mean, look, Luka Modric. There's not much that has to be said about this legendary, iconic player, one of the best midfielders of all time. And I think this is just going to be a narrative this season. The way he plays, he's class, he's intelligent, his experience just oozes all over the pitch. And I think playing 1 game a week for Luka Modric is something that is going to be one of those where he just thinks it's a cakewalk, right? And this is just the perfect player, and I think the perfect guy that we need in this team, right? Like I said, the experience, the class, and I think just the intelligence, I think just rubs off on all the other players. And like I said, Alexis Salamakers gets another assist. And these two, right, that we're talking about right now, I said in the last episode, we're going to have the biggest impact at Milan. And they have so far this season. They've been the 2 players that have really dictated games and have really made that impact to make us competitive in these matches, right? Versus Lecce, Salamakers was phenomenal. And in this game, I think Luka Modric was really good. And of course, Salamakers gets another assist. Great to see Salamakers really come to his own in this team, right? Because of where we saw him last, right? In a Milan shirt compared to now. It's just a complete black and white, 2 different players. And I'm really happy for Alexis. I'm really happy that he's really finding his own and he's really found a system, right, that Allegri has really gotten the best out of him. And I think this is one of the best things to ever happen, I think, to Salamakers, to be honest, in his developmental phase in his career for sure, because he's still fairly young, Salamakers. So let's not forget. But some players, right, and some player, I'll actually say, who's definitely raising some concerns is Santi Jimenez. I think missing that open goal that Pulisic set up perfectly for him. It had that goal was on a plate for Santi Jimenez. And he even created an angle to get around the goalkeeper, and he still missed. And I think this definitely raises some eyebrows going forward, because especially how impactful Christopher Nkunku was coming off of the bench. He came into the game, drew a penalty instantly, even though it wasn't given, which is absolutely shocking. This is mind-blowing how this penalty was not given, right? A tackle from the back, mind you, right? Defender nowhere near the ball, right? And Nkunku still gets up, gets fouled again. Referee points to the spot, goes to the VAR, and disallows the goal. I don't know what point where you look at this goal and think, yeah, this isn't a penalty. Absolutely outrageous. But regardless of the fact is, it could get bad for Santi Jimenez if he doesn't bag a goal sooner or later, especially if the news kind of plays on the fact that the management didn't want him. They wanted to sell him to Roma. They wanted to, do that swap deal with Dovbyk, and he wanted to stay and he wanted to prove himself. This could get ugly, to be completely honest. And I think, when Santi Jimenez was coming off, right, to sub in for Nkunku, you just saw his body language, right? He was just so defeated. He looked so defeated and he looked so upset with himself, because I think he even knows that that narrative is going to be played on in the news and Gazzetta and everything like that. News is a despicable thing, but regardless, this was I think for Santi Jimenez, I think this is a wake-up call. I think, right, because you have someone like Nkunku who made such a big impact. And even when he was in, right, bar the penalty, his link-up play, Allegri said that he was the most unfit player, because of how late he came in and his injury with Chelsea and everything like that. But man, he was linking up play. He was sharp. He looked fantastic from that sample size that we had. So I'm excited to see where Nkunku goes. But I think this is one of those where it does raise a couple eyebrows if you're a person, right? If you're a fan that invested stock in Santi Jimenez, like myself, right? I invested my stock in Santi Jimenez this season. I said he was going to have that breakout year, or he was going to get that chance and really prove himself. But it's looking a bit dodgy, not going to lie. But regardless of the fact is, with a tough opponent we played in front of us, a tough match, this was a game where we had to grind it out, because Bologna, top club. These guys are a well-oiled machine. They're a train that just doesn't stop. And I think Allegri, like I said earlier in this video, he got it spot on, 100% spot on. Defensively, we were sharp, we were compact. Tomori had a great game. I thought Tomori had a really good game, and I think we got a sample size of De Winter and kind of what he can bring. But overall, I was very pleased with the defense that we played in today's game. And I think when Pavlovic came off, I think Pavlovic is just too offensive, right? He likes to make those runs going forward, and I don't think Allegri likes that. I think that's why I think he opted for a more De Winter option, so we can kind of keep that back three really solid and compact. And I think it exactly what Allegri wanted, right? With De Winter in, Tomori and Gabbia. I don't know. I'm gonna say something, maybe not a hot take, but I think going forward, I think it's gonna be De Winter, Tomori, and Gabbia going forward. Next game versus Udinese, I think we run with that, just because I think of how well we really kept Bologna away from our box, right? I don't really think Bologna had that threatening of opportunities, to be completely honest. I was just watching the game and it just felt like Bologna didn't do much, to be honest, right? Obviously, they're a great team. They really kept us at bay, but I think Milan, we were creating chances, and I just have the thought of just Rafael Leao in this team. He's going to cook. I think he's going to do so fantastic in this team. I cannot wait till he comes back. And let's not forget, this is a Bologna team, again, like I said earlier in the video, they beat us in the Coppa Italia final not that long ago. So they've been a thorn in our side for the past couple seasons, in the last couple games. So, but with Mad Max coming out, he after that penalty was denied, being branded a red card. By the way, 100% a penalty, right? No doubt about that. He's out versus the game in Udinese. So, who are on a good streak right now, right? They beat Inter and they suffered to get a win versus Pisa. So Udinese, they're on a good little streak right now. But I think we have to go in this one hands down with a midfield of Rabiot, Ricci, and Modric. I've seen enough of a sample size from Ricci, right, in preseason, to these, couple cameos that he's had in Serie A. Hands down, Ricci is going to be one of those guys who are influential in this midfield, I believe, with Rabiot and Modric, who just ooze, that confidence and that experience that I think this midfield needs. I think, hands down, I think we looked way more balanced, way more creative with those three all on the pitch at once. And I think with a front three of Pulisic and Nkunku, I think both of them, they link play very well. And I think they're very similar players, to be honest, right? In some ways, I could definitely see some comparisons between the two, but unfortunately, Santi Jimenez, he's got to hit the bench just because it's like you see the limitations in what Santi Jimenez gives you, and I think that's link up play. I don't think he links up play very well. He's just one of those guys where I think he's just best suited as a poacher, to be honest. I think he can win a couple headers here and there. He's got a nasty left foot. I think if he just gets on that left foot, it's almost guaranteed a goal. But it's like I just look at the shots that he's had this game versus Bologna, and Santi could have easily had 2 goals tonight, to be completely honest. But regardless of the fact is, maybe he can start in Coppa Italia versus Lecce to prove himself, but versus Udinese, I want to see Nkunku. I think I've seen enough for Nkunku to be in this team, contributing to the offensive phase of the game and that creative aspect of the game as well. Because again, I see him as kind of like a Pulisic, to be honest. So I think if they can kind of play off of each other, I think this will be sensational. That'll be a phenomenal little front two of Pulisic and Nkunku going forward. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. What did you think of this game versus Bologna overall? I want to know what you guys think. Obviously, Mike Maignan injury is something that's going to address a lot of fans on Milan Twitter as well, but I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you think about Luka Modric? What do you think about the guys just overall? What do you think about this game in Bologna? But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Check us out on our links in the description below, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Ciao ragazzi.